If you are looking for an absolute masterclass in gritty, high-stakes underworld warfare, suffocating childhood friends to enemies tension, and a pulse-pounding, deeply visceral, dark reverse harem gangland epic, you need to clear your calendar for Peckham and Susanne Valenti. We are stepping directly into the decaying, calculation-heavy shadow universe of the Blackwood war zones with Sinner's Playground, a spectacular, high-gear, and beautifully executed series starter that establishes the Harlequin Crew as an elite, undisputed vanguard in modern dark romance. Let's lay out the strategic narrative grid. If you are a fan of stories where a fiercely resilient, street-smart heroine returns to her gritty hometown roots to claim an empire, where four lethal, heavily tatted criminal kings dominate the localized defensive perimeters, and where the authors utilize a scorching, high-velocity, forced proximity vengeance diagnostic routine to tear down your emotional safety buffer, this book is engineered to lock you in. The Twisted Sisters completely dominate the unput-downable contemporary Mafia Gothic dynamic, capturing the heart-racing momentum and raw, dark alley survival metrics popularized by Amo Jones, C.M. Stunich, and Tate James, while treating complex criminal layouts, deep psychological trauma, and overwhelming romantic obsession with exquisite care. The narrative tracking grid centers on Rogue Eliazar, a fierce, deeply scarred survivor who has spent the last several years running from the ghosts of her past. Rogue's personal safety buffer was completely shattered when she was forced to flee the Blackwood docks, leaving behind the only family she ever knew, the Harlequin Crew. Once, they were an inseparable vanguard of 5 street orphans protecting each other against the world. Now, Rogue is heading back across the boundary lines with an elite, calculation-heavy mission: secure information, reclaim her autonomy, and survive the savage boys who used to hold her heart. The spark ignites the moment Rogue crosses back into the Harlequins' territory. The crew has evolved into a hyper-intelligent, intensely sadistic criminal empire that rules the docks with an iron fist. The investigative grid takes an incredibly hostile turn when Rogue is intercepted by the 4 kings of the playground. Fox, the calculating, brooding mastermind who views her return as a tactical threat. Maverick, the silent, lethal weapon whose protective drives are heavily masked by rage. JJ, the chaotic, unhinged wildcard who thrives on psychological warfare. Sin, the smooth, dark manipulator who knows exactly how to breach her defense perimeters. Convinced that Rogue abandoned them and betrayed their sovereign childhood blood oath, the boys lock down the perimeter. They refuse to let her run again, designing a calculation-heavy game of retribution where the objective is to completely break her spirit and force her to submit to the crew's law. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of psychological perspective and raw street-level survival. The forced proximity reality of being trapped in their dark, luxurious criminal web turns the Blackwood underworld into a volatile, emotional pressure cooker. To survive the overarching trap and outmaneuver parallel rival gangs closing in on their territory, Rogue must deploy her own observation tradecraft, survive intense close-quarters interrogations, and confront the consuming, high-frequency vortex of desire that still burns between her and the 4 ruthless men she once loved. It is a dark contemporary romance, reverse harem suspense, organized crime noir, enemies to lovers drama masterpiece that treats gangland logistics and raw emotional survival with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We're talking about that high-frequency, you belong to the crew energy, where a single, unscripted micro-expression, a late-night confrontation in a rain-slick yard site, or a sudden shadow moving across a private estate perimeter carries massive structural weight. The brilliant creative synthesis between Peckham and Valenti's signature emotional intensity and brutal, fast-paced action is a masterstroke. The authors write with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the salty, industrial air of the docks, the suffocating panic of being cornered by alphas, and a distinct, subtle scent of leather, expensive whiskey, and pure, unadulterated passion. What truly elevates this milestone series starter into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to write realistic criminal warfare alongside profound character damage. Rogue isn't a fragile princess waiting to be rescued. Her immense psychological grit, razor-sharp mouth, and raw survival instincts match the complexity of the psychopathic world she is fighting step for step, making her race for dominance feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense tactical mind games and breathtaking physical stalemates before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping cliffhanger that will leave your pulse running hot. Sinner's Playground is the definitive pro-level upgrade your dark romance and hard-boiled suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable.
It proves that in a kingdom built entirely on sins, the most dangerous asset on the battlefield is the girl who knows exactly where all the bodies are buried. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to enter the playground.